thank you for looking into my laser cut magic kind of set here with the command zone and the life counter, depending on what you want to use out of it, but it all comes together. So this is how things look right off of my laser because of my workflow. I use this. This was originally a scrap killer project to help me go through some of my scrap materials from my larger products that I make for the hiking signs. So now I'm putting this out for sale as a digital file. If people would prefer to do that if they have access to those tools for their personal use. So this is the back piece to the command zone. This is this is walnut veneer. When I laser cut, I put on a piece of masking tape. And then these are the life spinners for you. These are the same size as the life spinners for the individual piece. Also has 3 for the different up to 3 opponents, and then a cast count for your commander. So the sizing, you can double check it with your sleeves, and if you need to adjust the sizes because of a particularly large sleeve, you should leave a good amount of room, even if it's in like a hard sleeve or a larger sleeve. So these are the parts that you would make off of the laser file. Also, what you'll need, these are Chicago screws. I get mine from Tandy leather. I'm not sponsored, these are just the ones that I found. This specific thickness I get are the 3/8 inch ones. This is the brass plate style, kind of the gold looking ones. You also will need some recommended pipe thread tape. This I use so that the threads don't unscrew themselves. I tried Loctite, but I don't like waiting for things to glue up. Also, this just works pretty fast. You'll need a flathead screwdriver. That just helps to go with the Chicago screws. I put the screw head on the back so you only see the nice polished side on the front, but these have been a real cool addition to my kind of arsenal of assembly. I also tend to use, again, not sponsored, Titebond glue. I use the original. I started using some of the other ones, but I like it because it's a very fast glue up time. Another thing that I use for the assembly are these, just any clamps. I like these small spring clamps. If you get clamps that are too powerful, they can leave imprints on the wood. These ones are from like Harbor Freight or discount bins at various stores. Walmart, I think, had them, and then I just go at them at any estate sales because I use a lot of them. So let me just go through some of the assembly for this so you can kind of follow along. For this file, there will also be the Illustrator file, which will have the text option here for you to go through and customize that. Whoops. All right, so let's go over this. In my general practice, I don't take the masking off until the glue is dried because sometimes in the process of gluing something up, I will touch the front of it, and I don't want to mess up the wood veneer before I've already gotten it glued up. So the way this glues together, it will sit like this. The space in the back lets the life counter and the cast counter sit, as well as not interfering with any of those. That being said, I need to be sure when I glue, I'm not gluing anywhere that's going to cause interference. And I try to get to the 4 corners here. These 2 corners are easy. There's nice overlap. This corner is good as well. I just want to really make sure there's no squeeze out into that area. This corner is a little bit harder because it very gently overlaps, very little bit overlaps right here. So these are almost touching, it just goes slightly past. So let me show you how I go about and do this. So just so you can kind of see again, this is how this fits over it. So this is the corner with the most concern, but the tab can't go up any higher because it interferes with the spin counter there. So I'll get out my glue. So I'll put a dab there, slightly bit bigger dab there. I'll put a little bit on my finger and then I'll just run it like that. So there's just a little bit there, but wood glue is actually very strong. So it's very structural. You don't really need a lot of it for something that is not going to be actually holding a lot of weight. So I'll just put my clamps on here. I do try to be careful that it doesn't slide around as I'm clamping it. I'll double check alignment once I'm done. Just want to make sure it is matched up really nice. Once I get a couple of clamps on, I can usually check that. If you get too many clamps on, it's hard to adjust, so 4 clamps though isn't really a lot, so probably can convince it to move a little bit if I have to. All right, so I'm just checking this edge is nice and lined up. That's lined up. This edge is lined up. Okay, so right now that's going to be in glue up. I'm going to set this aside along with all the counter bits for it, and this can go off to the side. Moving back to the spin down counter, again I use masking tape, so this is just blue painter's tape. It prevents the smoke from getting on the surface. The wood vapors can condense and kind of leave a mark that is just hard to clean. So I'm going to peel that off. The edges sometimes have a little bit of black, so I'm just going to wipe it real quick. All right, so here I have it just all kind of wiped down a little bit. It left just a little bit, and it depends on your settings, your machine, your materials. So for this material, I don't generally mask the birch. I do a score for the text because my text is just very thin trace and doesn't leave much smoke. Any etching I do on the layer that has the blue tape, the blue tape kind of helps it, but I generally will not do any etching as long as there's a, if it's not masked, I don't do etching. All right, so the Chicago screw is made up of 2 parts. There is a threaded rod, basically just a screw, and then an offset side like this with the threading on the inside. So we want for this, it to sit like this, where the birch layer is underneath, again in my example here. So I'm going to pop that through the front. I'll put that on there. I'll usually work on these upside down so that I can just kind of thread them in. I'm just going to do the one side for now because I tend to drop it if I do it. Try to do both at the same time. So this is where the thread tape comes in. So flip this upside down. Okay, so this is going to be turned to the right as you're pushing it in, so I try to wrap the tape around it going this way, so as I twist it, it doesn't undo itself. I use very, very little. This is a very thin kind of piece of plastic, so I'm only using like that much. It's not a lot. So I am going to wrap it in the direction that it's going to tighten, so that when I tighten it, it's not going to loosen. So now that I can kind of twist it, it's tight. It's just going to put a little bit of thickness in there, and it's going to keep this from undoing itself. Because this is a moving part, earlier prototypes and tests, I accidentally made a thing that unscrewed itself when your life counter went too low. So now that this is got the thread lock on it, I can put it in. I usually put my thumb on the side just to hold it still. I don't try to put so much that makes it impossible to spin, to like screw on, but I do want it to be a little bit of friction, so it's going to avoid falling loose. We're not tightening this too far because you can't turn it, so we'll kind of tighten it a little snug, and then I'll back it off just a little bit. And the nice thing about doing this kind of on your own for like a custom thing is you can sort of play with that. How loose do you want it? Do you want it to stay even if the table shakes? Because this is just about perfect. You can sometimes see the brass part will spin, but with that thread lock, the back spins with it. It's not going to loosen necessarily, so it'll kind of keep itself still. So let me do the other side, and then I'll move back to my command zone, and we'll see where that's at. So moving back to the command zone, I've got my 2 spin down life points down at the bottom. This is going to operate exactly the same as the little counter that we just finished. The glue really doesn't take too long to dry on this one, but give it about an hour if you're concerned about the quantity. The layout of these parts: the smallest wheel is for the caster, the 3 that look the same are for the commander damage from your opponents, and then the 2 on the bottom are for that life total. So I'm going to peel this off and then we'll get going from there. So if you have any issue with the surface, just this is my own work, I'll use like 400 grit sandpaper just to kind of smooth it out. But generally if I get a good veneered plywood, I don't have to worry about that. It's just like a 1/4 inch product. So all these parts go on the exact same way that you saw with this. I'm going to use the same Chicago screws because it'll go through and I'll be able to tighten those down. So these 3 will go up here, this one will go in here, and these 2 will fit in on the bottom. Like that. So hopefully that's enough to kind of show you how this goes together. This is all kind of glued together already, so I would just be going through and doing the exact same thing I did on here for these 2 bolts for all 6 of these. It takes a little bit of time, but in the end you have a nice commander zone in a nice kind of rustic wood appearance. So perfect for the elfantry folk decks if anyone's still running kind of things like that. So hopefully this was helpful. If you do have any questions, please reach out to me. Please reach out to me on the email that I will put on the screen. And hopefully you enjoy the product. Please leave me reviews. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know if you'd like me to make anything else. I'm always open to different ideas and custom projects.